Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, thank you for joining us today. So we'd just like to get into our topic of discussion right away. On the 30th of June, the High Court handed down a judgment in your favor against Mr. Basil Williams, former Attorney General of Guyana. In that judgment, the court awarded $10 million in compensation to you for libel published by Mr. Williams. The court also awarded interest on that sum and cost in the sum of $1.6 million. Could you kindly take us through chronologically the background of this case?
It's a long story, so if you will bear with me. You will recall that I was appointed Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs on the 5th of December 2011 by President Donald Ramotar. When I accepted the appointment, I had explained to President Ramotar that some 10 years prior to that, I was subscribing to the Commonwealth Law Reports, these books. And they are all here so that the camera can see. 10 years before I was subscribing to these books, I asked President Ramotar whether the government would consider continuing to pay the subscription if I take the position of Attorney General, because these books are very important to the functions of an Attorney General in my humble view. And since my law practice was paying for them, if I was going to work with the state, I thought that I would ask whether the state would take over and continue to pay the subscriptions. President Ramotar said he has no difficulty with that, and that arrangement was implemented. I wrote to the publishers and I indicated to them that the government of Guyana will now pay the subscription and the books will continue to come to me. That was implemented, and I received several of the books under that arrangement. Now, ministers are not given written terms of employment, so it was an oral arrangement. Dr. Luncheon was present when we had this discussion. Anyhow, I received the books, and then the 2015 elections came. We had to leave government as a result of those elections. I was requested to do a handing over to Basil Williams, who was the incoming Attorney General. I did that handing over. At the handing over itself, I explained to Basil Williams the arrangement that I had in relation to these books. In fact, there were several of the books in the office, which I took when I left, and other personal belongings that I had in the office. Basil Williams even told me that he wished he was subscribing to any report, because he said he would have capitalized on the same arrangement. I even jokingly said to him, I said, you can't start now. And my arrangement was existing, pay an existing subscription. I don't think the arrangement will allow you to now go and start something and have the government pay for it. So he laughed. Anyhow, that was the conversation that I had with Basil Williams. There was no insinuation or accusation of any type of wrongdoing, and certainly no allegations of criminal conduct. However, shortly thereafter, as part of my portfolio as an opposition member of parliament, I began to criticize Basil Williams. His incompetence was and is overwhelming. I could not have done my job without exposing the vast amount of incompetence that was being displayed by Williams in the performance of his functions. As a result, our relationship deteriorated. And I began to hear from the rumor mills that he was going to launch, or he has launched, an investigation into the law books. I met him several times in Parliament, and I explained to him that he's aware of the arrangement. Anyhow, he commissioned a special audit by the audit office into this report and the arrangements in relation thereto. I was requested to submit a statement to the Auditor General's office. President Donald Ramotar submitted a statement as well upon the request of the Auditor General. A report was prepared. The report indicated that no wrongdoing was done, and certainly the report did not disclose the commission of any offense. I thought that upon the completion of that audit report, that special audit report that Basil Williams commissioned, that would have brought an end to the matter. However, it did not. Recall that so these allegations continue in the public domain about these law books, and Basil Williams begun to accuse me publicly of wrongdoings. The matter came to A4 when I was doing a case for Carville Duncan against the Attorney General. In the middle of the trial of that case, I was appearing for Carville Duncan. Basil Williams was appearing in person as the Attorney General. In the middle of that case, in my presence and hearing, Basil Williams issued a threat to the sitting judge, Justice Franklin Holder. As a result, the judge rose the court and walked off the bench. I made that incident public. That very afternoon, Basil Williams rushed down to NCN studio and held a press conference in which he sought to defend what he did in the court during the course of that day. And it is during the course of that press conference that he announced again that I stole government's property, that I stole law books, and that I will be charged. The following day, I believe, he went to Berbice at some outreach program, and he published again similar allegations to the people with whom he was speaking. These statements were reported in the press, in the newspapers, and on the Amarara waves. I then launched libel proceedings against Basil Williams for those very statements. And it is those statements that form the basis of the libel. Of course, in the course of the case, you had to set out in your pleadings the entire narrative. So the whole factual narrative was set out, how I came into possession of these books, the arrangements which I had with the government, the special audit report that was done and ignored by Basil Williams, all of that, and the fact that I alleged in those proceedings that Basil Williams was motivated by spite, ill will, and that he's making those statements simply because of my constant expose of his incompetence in the public domain. When the proceedings were served upon him, within a week or two after that, I was summoned to Soku and informed that I will be charged with larceny. At Soku, I distinctly recall Mr. Sidney James telling me that he was directed to charge. I said to Mr. James that if the books are the issue, I am not going to return the books. because the books are my property. But if it is that the government wishes another set of the books, I am prepared to buy it. And I ordered the books from LexisNexis on the telephone, right in the Soko office. And I said to them they could wait and the books will be shipped to Guyana within a week, between 2 or 3 weeks. Sidney James said very clearly to me that that is not his instructions. His instructions to charge me. I surmise that Basil Williams only charged me because he felt at the time that the charge would have presented a defense to him in the libel matter. That he could have used the charge to say, well, I said that you will be charged. I said that you stole our books. Well, here it is. You are now being charged. Of course, that's an improper use of the criminal justice system. There was no investigation done. I was charged and then investigations followed because the case remained in the magistrate court for several years because they had no statement, they had no evidence. They charged me on an empty file based upon simply political directions. It was a big thing for me. I am a lawyer. I have never been accused of any form of dishonesty in my life prior to that. I have never been even charged with a traffic offense before in my life. And here it is that I am being charged for larceny, something that will tarnish my reputation and possibly affect my professional life. So I am happy that the High Court, in its civil capacity, was able to assess the entire factual matrix presented, supported by the evidence. Ramotar testified. The audit report was tendered. I testified. Basil Williams testified. He had about 3 lawyers at one time. During the course of the matter, I believe he dismissed them. He ended up doing the case himself. So both of us got an opportunity, full and frank opportunity, to ventilate the matters. The court upheld the transaction as a valid and proper one. Basil Williams could not advance any legal basis and legal reasoning to undermine the legality of the transaction. His statements made of and concerning me that I stole our books, he could not deny those statements as they were on tape, which tape we submitted to the court. And the court, applying the relevant law, not upheld the transaction as a lawful one and found that I was libeled and awarded the damages as you outlined.
If I may pause you here for a moment. As a public official, this case received international attention during its time. How did this affect your reputation? And now that you have been vindicated, how does that feel?
Well, fortunately, my political colleagues stood by my side. The then opposition leader, Bharat Jagdev, my political party, stood with me. Our supporters stood with me. I was able to constantly explain the historical evolution of this matter, the factual background that led to the charge. And people recognized that the criminal justice system was being used as a political weapon. You would recall during that time that Blanchan was arrested, Rohi was arrested, I believe Manik Chand may have been arrested, Ashni Singh and Brassington were charged, Siraj and Dharamlal were charged, and a whole host of others. Constantly, many of our leaders were taken down to Soku for questioning for various acts of government performed while we were in government. Irfan Ali was charged with some 16 odd criminal charges. So, when one takes it in that context, it did not do, the type of damage that it could have done. But it did a lot of damage. If you Google my name now, you will see law books, stealing of law books coming up. And for years in the social media, even now, even up to now, people are, opposition and other persons are making these allegations. They are accusing me of dishonesty. They are calling me thief. So, and as I said, I have never been accused of any form of dishonesty up until I was charged. I spent nearly 2 years in the court system. I had to go to court every day. The matter was reported in the press every day. I had to stand in the dock. I'm an attorney at law. And I want to believe an attorney at law of some standing. But I had to stand in the dock for a number of months, if not years. So it was humiliating. My family was embarrassed because they know that we are not a people. I am not a person of that inclination. The police came to my house. Viewers would recall. Police came to my house and demanded that they come in to take away the law books. And I said no. I said no, it's my property. I will not give it. And I never handed over those books. I said that the system will vindicate me at some point in time. The law books are here. I never hand them over. As I said, I ordered new ones because if they want, I can afford that. I can give them back. I can make a donation of much more. So I bought books and I gave it back to the attorney. I gave it to the Attorney General Chambers. It's there. But it was always a question of principle. I did no wrong. I committed no criminal act. And therefore I maintain most resolutely that charge was vacuous, was arbitrary, was capricious, was vindictive, and was politically inspired. And any contention that I stole government property or I stole law books constitutes a libel. It's defamatory. And that is why I sued. And I was, as I said, vindicated by the High Court.
And on that note, if you could briefly, explain to us why was it important to institute civil proceedings, even though the charges against you were dropped and you were vindicated at that level?
Because I wanted the High Court, and possibly if the matter goes to the CCJ, I wanted to be vindicated right through. The charges were eventually dropped, and I wanted the civil court to also interrogate this matter and conclusively determine it. And that is why I persevered with this matter. I could have withdrawn this. I didn't have the time. I was extremely busy. But I thought about it. And I said, you know what? It's already there. Why not allow it to be pronounced upon? And let the world see that a judge, an independent judicial officer, will conform what I am saying. And I wish that Basil Williams appeal the matter, because I believe, honestly, that the judge should have granted more than $10 million.
And that brings me to my last question now. Now that the case has concluded at the level of the High Court, what next?
Well, I hope that in the public domain, and in particular on the social media, persons will desist from writing the things that they write in relation to this matter. I hope that they will stop accusing me of unlawful conduct in this regard. They will stop writing about this law book issue, because now I can easily sue them. The court has already pronounced. So I am hoping that that impact will be had. But most importantly, the judgment brings this matter to an end in a conclusive judicial pronouncement. The judge's ruling is some 13 pages, and the judge admonished Williams for leading the type of defense that he chose to lead. Williams, in his defense, said that he will justify that I stole his book. Justification was his defense. And he said that he was entitled to make this public commentary. And he was unable to prove any of these defenses. And the judge penalized him for that and reprimanded him for that. You see, when you don't have a case, you don't plead a defense like justification, because justification aggravates the wrong. You are, first of all, accusing me wrongly, and then to aggravate the situation, you are saying that you're going to prove that right. And that is why the judge admonished him throughout the judgment. So I hope that the ruling now having been pronounced, it will bring closure to this matter. As I said, at a personal and professional level, it was a significant event in my life, because as a lawyer, I was charged with a criminal offense, innocently charged. I had to go to the court, I had to retain lawyers, I spent a lot of time hearing this matter. And for what? Simply because I was exposing the incompetence, the inefficiency, the corruption that was going on in the government of the day, of which I am an opposition member of parliament, which obliges me with the responsibility to do exactly that. And because of that, and you control the state, you're going to use the state machinery as a weapon against me? No. The state, the judiciary, and the criminal justice system must never be used as a weapon of vindictiveness, as a weapon in the political armory of any government, or must be used to settle personal disputes. That is not what the justice system is there for. The justice system is to do justice between parties who have a genuine grievance. There was no genuine grievance here. This gentleman knew from the beginning what the arrangement was, but wanted to use the criminal justice system to shut me up. And I refuse to allow that to happen.
Well, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
No, I want to thank you very much, and for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this matter. I hope that it's widely disseminated, so that the truth can eventually replace the lies that are out there.